I would like to invite Sadie Jones from the University of Southampton. She's going to talk to us about astronomy at the airport, supernova science in the departure lounge.
Slides? Okay, hi everyone. I'm not used to using these things. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a project we led at a local airport, doing kind of public engagement with our research. So it was a bit of an experiment, but hopefully you'll take something away from the talk about how you might try and kind of link up with a partner airport near you. Okay, so who am I? So I work at the University of Southampton. So Southampton is famous for the Titanic. Most people know it sailed from there. My job, most of the time, is taking a mobile planetarium into schools, so using kind of visualizations like we just talked about. And yeah, so kind of in the UK, we're doing kind of less outreach at the moment, and we're trying to do public engagement with research, okay? So this is a project all about that. I think that's everything I need to say for that. Okay, so the idea for working with an airport came from the March 2015 eclipse. I'm also on the teaching staff that takes the second-year undergrads to Tenerife to observe for 2 weeks. And it just so happened that we were on the plane flying from London Gatwick to Tenerife at the time of the eclipse. So that was great, because it was really cloudy in London, of course. So being astronomers, we all had our eclipse glasses. And as we were walking down the plane, we decided to give them out to the people kind of sat in the rows. And they were really suspicious of us. They thought we were selling something. They were like, no, we don't want to take that off you. But when they realized it was free and we were literally just selling science, they really kind of engaged and they got more excited. And then they wanted to know exactly where they needed to look to see this amazing eclipse. So we realized that kind of giving out a freebie, whatever it was, even something really small and kind of cheap, is a good way to kind of start the conversation with someone who might have been quite suspicious of you originally. So we came up with this idea that maybe actually going on an actual plane would be quite difficult, but perhaps working in an airport departure lounge where people are a kind of captive audience, they're sat in kind of chairs, waiting at gates with some time to kill, would be, an interesting kind of project. So then I had to come up with a kind of a freebie, kind of a novel idea that we could kind of give out to people at the airport. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. But yeah, so these are all the things I kind of needed when I kind of was thinking about this project. The main thing I should say is that, so public engagement with research in the UK is a bit different to kind of the talks we've had yesterday kind of in America. We have to have this two-way conversation with someone to be able to kind of call it public engagement. And we specifically link it in with the research for kind of impact and the ref so that we can get good ref points. So which research did I want to convey to the public? It was actually, I chose the supernova group. So in the University of Southampton, we typically work on dead stars and black holes and stuff, and that's what my research is in. But we have this new group who are working on supernova, and everyone loves kind of dark matter and dark energy and all these big questions, and most people kind of know what a supernova is. They know it's like this explosion in space, and they get quite excited about it. So the idea was to take this image of the Tycho supernovae, a Type 1a supernovae, that the group actually used to measure distances, simplify it, and print it onto a towel. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. The partner airport I chose was Southampton Airport. This is only an 8-minute drive from the university, so I didn't have to spend much money on kind of travel costs. And the getting into the airport, especially a departure lounge where there's high security, is the biggest kind of ask, really. It's the hardest thing to do. So I wrote down exactly what I kind of, all the good things that the airport would get from us being there, from letting in some scientists who were giving out freebies, and how it would improve the passenger experience of people who were just kind of a bit bored waiting for their flights. So I managed to find the lady who was would be in charge of this, the customer experience manager, on their website. I wrote down all the things that they would get from the experience and practiced it on the roof, talking to myself, kind of like a salesperson. And she said yes, and they were really excited to have us in. So who were our audience? So the audience we chose were those with what we call a low science capital. So they're like the hard-to-reach groups that wouldn't typically attend our kind of science festivals and engineering days that we run at the university all the time. We still wanted to kind of target the younger families because of the kind of research that shows that parents have such a great influence on their children, and we wanted to get the parents on board with the fact that science and research is something that everyone can take part in, etc. So we thought we would go during the school holidays for a week. So we were there for 4 days, and we thought we would just mainly work with young families. But the way it turned out was that 50% were young families, but more like 50% of the people who spoke to us were staff. So here we have a guy, one of the security guards. He's actually using this Hoberman sphere to learn about supernova and how they expand. But I was a bit scared because he had his gun in his other hand, so could have all gone a bit wrong. But yeah, everyone was getting really engaged, even the people, because every day we had to go through the security kind of barriers to get into the departure lounge, obviously, and even the people there were like seeing all our freebies and asking us stuff and things like that. Also, because it was holidays, lots of the kind of more senior people, grandparents, etc., were going to visit their families. So they really came up and had very long kind of engagements with us. Okay, so how did it work? So we had a stand, here you can see it. We had typically 4 of us each day for each of the 4 days. So it was myself every day, and then a mixture of PhD students who work in the supernova group, and also an undergrad who's just a kind of outreach star came along. I'll talk a bit about the funding I got later, but basically half the budget went on staff costs. So we do pay our demonstrators very well. If you don't have much money or funding, I think you could do this with volunteers if you kind of train them up properly. But because we were engaging with the research, I thought it was important that at least some of the team are kind of members who are actively doing supernova research. So, okay, so our main freebie that we came up with is a compressed towel. So we thought this would be really small for people to put in their hand luggage because they've already gone through security. And we wanted people to learn that a supernova was kind of like an expansion in space. We did find out that we could say explosion and death in an airport. The anti-terrorism guy came around, and he actually told us it was fine, because the first 2 days we were saying it's an expanded star, not an exploded star. But the idea was they could take this away in their hand luggage. We had some demos to show them what it would look like after it expanded. And the idea was that they would kind of like wash their face in it on their holidays, remember about supernova, kind of remember about the research, remember the astronomers they'd met. And we also had a fish tank, so they didn't get tempted to go to the bathroom and expand it there. So that was the main kind of vehicle for engaging, was giving out this towel. But we also had some hands-on activities, this Hoberman sphere. So we had a smaller one representing the core and a colourful one representing the outside of the supernova, and you could say that the colours kind of, as you ask the kids in this case to expand the supernova when it explodes, you can say that all the different colours, the different elements, and link that into them, everyone being made of stars and things like that. Half my budget was spent on freebies. So quite a big fraction was spent on freebies, but these were the way we were engaging. So again, if you had less of a budget, you could spend a lot less. These are kind of, I won't really go through all these, but these are my objectives, which I wrote to get the funding. These are SMART objectives. I'm sure most of you know what SMART objectives are, but it's important to have measurable objectives that when you finish the project, you can go back and see if it was being a success. So I applied for funding from the Science Technology Facilities Council. This is a small award for public engagement, and you can apply for up to 10K. I only actually applied for 7.1K, and we were awarded the full cost. In hindsight, I probably would have kind of asked for more, but I'll tell you the things I would have kind of asked for as I kind of go through, and I've said most of those. When I actually kind of wrote down that I was going to do this talk, these were the 3 things that my audience would learn. So hopefully you'll learn all about these 3 things. But basically, free gifts result in impact, and the best way to evaluate an event like this. Okay, so in the departure lounge, we had our stand, and 2 people kind of normally stayed on the stand, and then another 2 people would kind of rove around just chatting to people who were sat down. We thought it would be a lot harder to kind of engage people who were kind of waiting, because we thought they might be like hiding behind their phones from us and things. But people were really quite positive. I don't know whether it was just because it was the holidays and people were a bit happier. And quite often, sometimes if they didn't they said, no, we don't want to speak to you, we'd start talking to the person next to them, having a conversation, and then they would be like, oh, actually, I'd quite like a freebie, and then we'd talk to them as well. So it was really quite interesting. We got quite a lot of engagements from the boarding queues. So Southampton Airport was really small. So we could see all the gates in the airport from where we were on the stand. So every time there was a flight boarding, we would just run at them and give them out goodie bags and chat to them, basically. And you can see down here, James is having a very kind of long, kind of high-level conversation. Oh, sugar. Okay, these are the free gifts. I showed you them. We distributed the research with a leaflet. We probably should have got that designed, but we didn't. So how many engagements did we have? We had 1,457. This might seem quite low, but to count it as engagement, we had to have a conversation, a 2-way conversation, where they said something back to us. So we couldn't count it if we just gave them a goodie bag and they didn't say anything to us. There was various ways we kind of measured the engagement before and after. So we envisaged that we would do electronic evaluation on the day, but what actually happened is we ended up using paper forms, and that is because we didn't have an external person who was evaluating the event. We were also kind of attached to the research and wanted to talk about it, that we didn't take enough time to evaluate. So I recommend if you do this, take an external evaluator. And if you do want to use electronic evaluation, then you might want to add in some costs for some kind of very interactive app, because we only had a Google form, and I think that was why we didn't push the evaluation on the iPads. So only 59 people filled out paper forms at the airport, but we did get some of their emails, so we could contact them after the event. We incentivized with prizes, and we followed the social media at the event with hashtags. So yes, this is a really nice quote from some people who said that they never knew they could be a scientist for a job, and they want to be a scientist now. And this is another one where you have 3 levels of engagement. So a granddaughter giving the towel to her grandchild, who then explained it to the 2-year-old sister. So that was really nice. The impact it has on the staff doing it is also really important. So Jo here said that she feels more confident in the physics because she was actually being asked lots of physics, kind of general physics, not necessarily research. And the Supernova PhD, who was active in research, said that being asked the kind of what is the point of you being here questions really made him kind of consider his research kind of wider. I'm quickly going to go through these. These are some of the, if you want to ask me, I've got a very long evaluation report I can share with people. But 92% of people said they learned something, and 78% of people actually wrote down what they learned, and it was accurate. 100% of people said that they talked to someone about the astronomers, and 89% of people said that they had a more positive opinion of scientists. So you should do this, and I have some towels to give out, and I'm going to leave them outside. And just remember that a towel is the most massively useful thing an interstellar traveler can have. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Sally. We have time for one question. Okay, Tanya.
Thank you.
Can the next speaker be close to the stage so we move a bit faster?
Hi, Sadie.
Hi, Tanya.
I don't know if that's on. I'm speaking, but okay. I'm quite interested that you said you were targeting a hard-to-reach audience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, how did you establish that that was a hard-to-reach audience? Because I kind of figure that, how do you know that people that are at the airport are not the kind of people who go to science events?
Yeah, so I think when we proposed the project, we just assumed that a lot of them would be hard to reach because we're not selected from a sample of people who've chosen to come to a science event and they're just going on their holidays. We did actually find in the evaluation when we asked them a question, do you normally attend science events, that probably like 50% of them actually did. But I think that is kind of linked